Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, let's think about this. You're running cloud security for your organization. Things are moving fast, right? New projects, new people, consultants needing temporary keys, apps, talking to apps. You're trying to secure it all, but it feels like you can't even see all the doors, let alone know who actually holds the keys. So the big question, the one keeping security folks up at night, is how do you really know who has access to what? And what they can do with that access, especially in these super dynamic, complex cloud setups. Today, we're going to dig into cloud identity discovery, our mission, to explore how these specialized solutions can, well, bring some clarity to that chaos, give you that single pane of glass over every digital identity out there.
It's a huge challenge, absolutely.
Mm.
Because as companies scale up in the cloud, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, you name it, just managing the identities, it feels almost impossible sometimes. And what's really interesting, I think, is that traditional security often misses that slow creep of permissions. Think about it. One study found over 60% of cloud breaches, they involve compromised identities. And often it was down to permissions granted months, maybe years ago, and just forgotten. The material we looked at offers this really comprehensive way to tackle this. It's not just about seeing everything. It's about centralized control. And that's just, well, critical for solid security and, staying compliant.
Okay, centralized visibility and control, that definitely sounds like the goal.
Yep.
But how do these solutions actually provide that kind of holistic view when identities are just scattered everywhere?
Well, it really starts with continuous automatic discovery. This isn't like a one-off scan. The platform is constantly looking through your cloud environments, identifying all the active accounts and figuring out their entitlements. It's about building and, crucially, maintaining this live, up-to-date inventory. Every user, every permission, making sure nothing gets missed, nothing goes rogue. It's the difference between, say, looking at an old blueprint versus having a live 3D model of your whole cloud identity landscape.
Right, so not just a snapshot, it's dynamic, an ongoing inventory. But finding them all is, like you said, step one. The real worry starts when you think about what hidden risks might be lurking there. How do these solutions help you peel back those layers, especially with things like misconfigurations?
Yeah, you've hit on a really key point there. Once you have that inventory, the next thing is understanding the quality of those identities. Our sources really hammer this home. Even an identity you know about can be a sort of ticking time bomb if it's misconfigured. So these solutions automatically flag those issues. Maybe it's an S3 bucket accidentally left public, or an identity with some super sensitive permission that it just got overlooked. And building on that, they do dynamic risk assessments. So it's not just sticking a high-risk label on something. It actually evaluates the threat level based on the scope of permissions, how they're actually being used, and if they line up with security policies. Yeah. This lets you focus your efforts where they'll have the biggest impact, not just chasing down every single alert.
Okay, and speaking of permissions, that often leads to this thing called privilege sprawl, right? It reminds me of that junk drawer everyone has, stuff just accumulates, you don't use most of it, but it's still there. In the cloud security world, those forgotten gadgets are excess permissions and they're way more dangerous. How do these tools tackle that problem?
That's a perfect analogy, actually. Privilege sprawl is exactly that. Permissions pile up, they're not needed anymore, but nobody's revoked them. So these solutions are specifically built to find and help manage that sprawl. They pinpoint accounts with way too many permissions or ones that just aren't necessary. It all comes back to enforcing that principle of least privilege, which, massively shrinks your attack surface, makes things much more secure. You're not just finding the junk, you're actually helping to clear it out.
Clearing out the junk sounds good, but with all this data coming in from AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, how do you possibly make sense of it all? Is it just this overwhelming flood of information?
No, definitely not, or at least it shouldn't be. Making sense of it all, that's where advanced analytics and reporting come in. They're vital. The platform gives you detailed insights, sure, into who's who and what they're doing, but it's more than just a data dump. It's designed to help you spot trends, right?
Yeah.
Detect anomalies that would be almost impossible to find manually, like an account suddenly hitting data it's never touched before. And, importantly, generate the compliance reports you need, so security teams can stay on top of things and make decisions based on actual data, not just guesswork.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but isn't integrating with all the major clouds a huge task in itself? What are the sort of common struggles organizations have trying to glue all that data together from different providers?
That's a really good question because, yes, integration can be a massive headache. What our sources emphasize is how important seamless integration is, using the cloud's own native APIs. This makes sure the identity discovery is thorough, it's accurate, and it's consistent everywhere without needing these clunky custom connectors that, frankly, often break. And that native integration, it also means you get real-time updates, notifications about any changes in identities, which is critical, right, for staying agile. It lets admins jump on suspicious activity or sudden access changes almost instantly, like getting live alerts straight from the cloud itself.
Ah, okay. So it's not just who has access, but how they're using it and getting alerted fast if something looks weird. Which brings us to identity threat protection, ITP, and context-aware access controls. Can you maybe unpack those a bit more? How do they make security smarter?
Absolutely. So ITP is about continuous monitoring specifically for identity-based threats. It does this by analyzing behavior patterns. Think about it like this. Someone logs in from a totally new country and immediately tries to access sensitive financial data. Or maybe an account that normally just runs background tasks suddenly tries to create new admin users. It's about spotting that deviation from the baseline, not just checking against a static rule. And then context-aware access builds on that. Access decisions aren't just a simple yes-no anymore. They factor in real-time context, user behavior, location, device security. So if an admin who usually logs in from the office suddenly tries to hit a critical database from, say, an unknown IP in another country on their personal laptop, the system flags that increased risk right away. It can block access or demand extra proof they are who they say they are. It's a much more intelligent, adaptive way of doing security.
That level of granularity for access control sounds like it could really help with the compliance side of things too, not just pure security.
Precisely. Yeah, beyond just the security aspect, keeping up with regulations like GDPR, HIPAA, PCI DSS, it gets significantly easier. And look, it's not just about ticking boxes. It's about having that solid, detailed audit trail. Proof positive of who accessed what, when, where. That's absolutely essential if you face an incident or an audit. Trying to prove least privilege across thousands of identities without this kind of continuous discovery. It's a massive headache, legally and technically.
So it smooths out the legal and regulatory burden too, not just the tech side. Our source material also mentioned automated lifecycle management for cloud identities. Why is that so important for just, day-to-day operations?
Right. Automated lifecycle management. It basically ensures access always matches the user's current role. It uses continuous monitoring and automated workflows for onboarding new folks, but also, crucially, for offboarding. This helps stop that privilege creep we talked about and make sure people who've left former employees, contractors, lose their access almost immediately. That's not just good security hygiene. It saves a ton of manual work. And despite all this power, a user-friendly interface is really key. It has to simplify managing all these cloud identities, make it easy for admins to get around, set policies, monitor things, pull reports. That really boosts efficiency. And tying back to your earlier question about scale, these solutions need to scale seamlessly as organizations grow their cloud usage. You need consistent security across more and more identities and permissions.
Okay, so let's try and recap the core value here that we've explored in this deep dive. Cloud identity discovery. It gives you that holistic central view of access. It automates finding hidden risks, misconfigurations, privilege sprawl, and it offers these smarter tools for assessing risks dynamically and protecting against identity threats. All of this really empowers organizations, doesn't it? Lets them react fast and stay secure even as they grow like crazy.
Exactly. And connecting that to the bigger picture, like we touched on, it really helps maintain compliance with major regulations, GDPR, HIPAA, PCI DSS, thanks to those detailed audit trails and reports. And we shouldn't forget the huge operational wins, right? From automated lifecycle management, the easy-to-use interfaces, and that critical ability to scale up smoothly. It means your security can actually keep pace with the business.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. In this world where cloud adoption just keeps accelerating, where digital identity really is the new perimeter, how much hidden risk could be lurking inside an organization that doesn't have a solid, continuous strategy for finding, managing, and securing every single cloud identity? What kind of constant vigilance does it really take to master this part of cloud security? And maybe more importantly, what's the potential cost, the unseen cost of overlooking even one misconfigured or overprivileged account? Something to think about.